Do you think there's a cost to not being financially literate, not having a basic understanding of how compound interest works or loans work, incomes, budgets, credit score, investing, things like that? And if so, how much? Well, based on self-reporting, the typical adult says a lack of financial literacy costs them about $1,800 a year. But 15% of survey respondents said it cost them $10,000 or more. And on the other end of the extreme, 62% of respondents said it didn't cost them anything, or at least less than $500. Now, these are both the extreme ends of the study, right? And I would bet that the people who are saying that it's costing them nothing or a very negligible amount are suffering from an overconfidence bias, where they tend to think that they're handling money matters better than your typical average Joe without having an adequate knowledge base. Because what you don't know can hurt you. That's why we turn to the tax professionals, the accountants, during tax season. They know the ins and outs of tax law, and they can save us money. It's why you turn to a lawyer to help preserve your estate. It's why you might meet with a financial professional when you're gearing up for retirement, because they know the blind spots. After all, it's really easy to miss a blind spot because you don't know what you don't know. And generally, the more you learn, the more you realize there is to learn. Everyone should have a basic understanding of financial matters. I believe that's imperative for a successful life. You don't have to be a pro in all areas. Call in the pros whenever necessary. But a good working knowledge of money matters, that's essential. It's essential to making good decisions. So where do we stand on financial literacy as a country? Well, a recent study from the Global Financial Literacy Excellence Center revealed that the typical adult can only answer 50% of the questions correct on a basic financial literacy test. Worse, 23%, or almost a quarter of respondents, score less than a 25% on the test. Now, the test given to respondents was 28 questions in length and covered a variety of topics like interest, income, investing, savings, debts, things like that. And while that exact survey isn't available on the GFLEC website, they do have a brief survey available on their website if you're at all curious as to what the questions looked like, and I will link that down below. There's good data showing people make better decisions when they have financial literacy. Financial education courses were implemented in Georgia, Texas, and Idaho, and 3 years out across all 3 states, there was a measurable average increase in credit score and a sharp decline in loan delinquencies. Further, individuals who score lower on financial literacy tests are 6 times more likely to struggle to make ends meet, 3 times more likely to be constrained by debt, 3 times less likely to be able to cope with an unexpected financial emergency, and 4 times more likely to stress about finances for 10 or more hours per week. Of those who scored above the median on financial literacy tests, 70% had opened and were actively contributing to a retirement account. And compare that with those who scored below the median on financial literacy tests, only 43% were actively contributing to a retirement plan or had any retirement plan at all. Finances permeate every aspect of our lives. Knowing how to appropriately budget your income, save for your future, making sure you're adequately insured to protect yourself and your family, knowing how much debt you can adequately take on in the form of a house or a car, making sure to pay off your credit card every single month, keeping your credit score high, because when you do need a loan, that gets you the best rates and that lowers the cost of borrowing, and also knowing when to turn to a financial pro. Life is simply more expensive when you don't understand the importance of understanding your finances. The bottom line is that to live the life you want to live, you need to understand how to manage money. It's not the only thing, but it's a key tool in the toolkit. Financial literacy rates are lowest among the youngest generations and tend to increase with age. Many don't receive any financial education when they're young and then tend to simply learn from their mistakes as they go. But it's worth noting that financial literacy is actually fairly low among all generations. But it does make sense that as you go through life, your financial literacy will tend to increase. You just encounter more situations. But having a good baseline knowledge at a very young age can help prevent you from making some very costly mistakes. Just think, by the time people are late teens, they're already faced with some pretty big financial decisions, like how much student loans can they afford to take out? What kind of car can they afford? Can they afford to take a gap year? The power of compounding interest and the power of really putting away a small amount at a very early age and what that could grow to. Many of these mistakes can be costly, wildly costly. What if people knew not to make these mistakes in the first place? That would put them in a much better position financially. What if a 20-year-old just put away $100 a month, just $50 from every paycheck, and do that for 45 years? That could grow to almost $500,000. And that's just $100. But without fully understanding the power of compound interest and how important it is to get started as early as possible, say instead they don't start saving that $100 a month until the age of 30, that nest egg is cut by more than half. And if you sign on for $40,000 of student loan debt, but then get a degree that doesn't adequately allow you to foot that balance, that's not a decision that you can easily shake off. It is exponentially easier to find your financial footing earlier in life and have success with your money if you start out by not making these mistakes, because many of these mistakes will actually build on each other. If you over-leverage yourself with debt, that puts you in a situation where you're living paycheck to paycheck. Saving and investing becomes exponentially harder, if not impossible, and that puts you in a very vulnerable position. If an emergency pops up and you can't foot the bill, that would drive you further into debt, and the cycle continues. These mistakes can cost you tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of a lifetime. I absolutely believe there's a cost to not being financially literate, whether or not people are aware they're paying it. If you don't have a basic understanding of money matters, I absolutely believe you're paying a cost. And these mistakes can affect your life in ways that measure beyond financial. Perhaps you have to put off buying a home or starting a family. Perhaps you can't take a vacation. You can't afford to take the time off work, or maybe you can't afford the travel. The number of Americans who lack financial literacy, particularly in our younger generation, is deeply concerning. Until financial education is offered in schools, institutions of higher education, and workplaces, we will continue to see generations of adults struggling with their personal finances. The easiest way to hit the most people is to have some level of financial education in the school system. But as of 2022, only 24 states require some level of personal financial coursework by graduation. So there's definitely still a gap, but we're so fortunate to live in an age with access to so much information. You have my favorite, which is the library, literally hundreds upon hundreds of books, all available completely free, which is my favorite price point. So I recommend getting a tote bag, heading to the library. It makes for a great afternoon. And practically every library also has a digital catalog as well. So if you don't even want to make the trip to the library, you can just download the books digitally. I think digital books are great, physical books are great, but push come to shove, I'm going to choose physical. I love holding the book, turning the pages. To me, a physical book wins out. And here's a tip, just in case you didn't know, if your library doesn't have a book and you want to read it, ask them to buy it, and I bet they will. Every time I've asked, my library has bought it, so you never have to buy another book again. And then we have the internet. Within seconds, you can find an article or a video on any topic you can imagine. I love books for their in-depth knowledge, and then I love these articles and videos for the niche topics they cover. And just in case you're curious, I have actually compiled a list of my favorite personal finance books, and I've linked it down below. But by no means do you have to go crazy with it. Maybe it's setting a baseline of reading 2 to 3 personal financial books a year. Maybe it's watching 1 video a week. Unless you're watching this channel, then you have to watch 2. Monday and Friday, that's when I post new videos. Maybe it's reading 1 article a week. Your commitment to financial knowledge should be lifelong. Because remember, you're gonna have different financial goals throughout different phases of your life. When you start, it's all about wealth accumulation and growing in your career. Then maybe a few years go by, you have a family, now you have to add in managing debt like your mortgage and saving for your kids' futures as well. Then you'll reach a point where you've built a significant amount of wealth, and it's learning to manage that wealth itself and reduce your overall tax burden. Your goals change throughout your life. The education you need throughout your life is going to change. And if you have kids, remember finances start at home. Show your kids how you're managing your finances. Peel back the curtain. Don't let it be a taboo subject. I wish we all talked about finances a little bit more. I feel like everyone would be a little bit better off if it wasn't such an off-limit subject, as individuals and as a society. Remember, a rising tide lifts all boats. You can't improve on something if you aren't even open to talking about it or exploring it as a subject. So what do you guys think? Leave your thoughts in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye.